weaving with knitting yarns. Can you do it? Absolutely. Should you do it? Maybe not. Either way, I need to put this in a more user-friendly form. Right now, as I wind this out, it's going to bounce all over the place and make knots and do all kinds of fun things. So, wind it into a cake. I'll find out what way the color is going. You know, red, orange, yellow, or yellow, orange, red. I'll find out if there are any joins, right? Yarn was short, they knotted it up. And pull out some of these lovely hinky spots, because there's no way that's going to make it through the weaving process. Not a chance. So wind it out, measure it out. Yeah, like that one right there. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, instead of this being we'll call it the rainbow sequence, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, it mirrors back and forth. So I don't have to worry about rewinding one of these skeins so that it's going in the correct order, right? If this one was red through purple and this was purple through red, one of them would have to go the other way, right? So we're good as far as that's concerned. Now comes the fun part, trying to get them all to line up together. You gotta have warp to weave. So I need to measure out, in this case, not quite 11 yards. Lining up my colors, which of course is magically going to work the first time. So all my blues, all my purples, all my what have you. And then I can dress the loom so that I can actually start weaving.
I'm using a warping board rather than a reel for this particular project because it makes it much easier for me to use multiple skeins, stopping and starting, not just using them all consistently, and much easier to do and undo as many times as it takes to get the colors to line up.
First skein, I didn't realize the camera was off, which is okay because it ended up being complete rubbish. It had so many weak spots that I would have lost way too much in yardage. So I'll do something else with that one. I'll knit or make a lot of jewelry or something, I don't know. I have another skein wandering around somewhere. I'll wind that up later. Okay, these two skeins are definitely behaving. I don't have all the weak spots that I did with the first one. So now I need to go hunt up another third one to make this all work. All right, I have the replacement skein for the one that was so bad, and I'm gonna back these off. So I can start with that one since that's at the teal, and then we'll add in again and it'll all work. I just know it will. So soon I will have my wings and everything will be all right. Because one of them was not keeping pace with the other two to the color change. So, redo. So, I'm cranky. The camera shut off about 15 minutes into a 2-hour production of getting this warp to line up, which is really, really annoying. Also, my tension wasn't as even as it could have been, which means my pegs kind of bent in, which they so often do. So that means one side of my warp is shorter than the other side. Over almost 11 yards, that works out to a couple inches. Luckily, we have waste that we account for. So I won't end up with as big a little play project at the end of all of this, but at least I'll get all of what I intended out of this. I could undo it and redo it. Not a chance in hell. Just no way. If I take this off with the intention to redo it, it's going to end up in the trash can or a bonfire. But it wound beautifully, or I should say, the end results are beautifully. It sure didn't behave while I was winding it. It will be gorgeous when I weave it up. I have enough to make what I intended, almost. And yeah, you gotta be warped to weave. I want all of this secure so that I can take it off of the board and over to the loom without making too much of a disaster. Ta-da! And how do you get it off without making an unholy mess to get it to the loom? Make myself a cute little loop and you chain it up. You can see why some people tie chokes more often. I should. All nice and secure, and I can take it over to dress the loom. When I give a little tug, you can see how that all straightens out nicely. There is a very official weaver's knot. Sorry. Over and around. Been a while, my hands weren't working. All right. This is a great knot. If you've tied it correctly, it won't come undone. Your threads will break, but the knot won't come undone. I've found that I don't need to use this one, even though it does compact into a very nice, tiny knot. I can get away with doing an overhand. Gives my hands a little bit of a break. According to my cross, this kind of violet one is the next thread in the order, but you can see how with the skeins I had a little more of the red going on. So I'm going to skip that one for a moment and do the next three and then work that one back in. Generally, I prefer leaving them in the order that I wound them out because they behave better when I pull them through onto the back beam. But again, when you're working with knitting yarns, they're squirrely. There's only so much that you can say about behaving better. Is it tedious and annoying tying all the knots? Yes, absolutely. But I found that balances out on the plus side compared to threading all of the petals and through the reed again. Plus, it lets me weave a little longer on my warp, so I have less of the pretty yarn wasted. Okay, that's half. Now I gotta get my hands a break. So now we're all tied on. My beautiful mess of knots. And the next part is to get it under tension, and wind it onto the warp beam.
I'm just inserting some dowels to help create an even tension across all of the warp ends. These scarves I wove in a plain weave structure as it allows the warp yarns to stand out. Because of course, what's the point in going through all of that god-awful work to get the colors to line up if you then can't see them since they've been covered up with weft threads? So, plain weave, changed out the warp color for each scarf. Excuse me, changed out the weft color for each scarf. So I have multiple looks. And now you get to listen to the loom making music, which is quite nice when you're not sitting in front of it listening to it for 8 hours in a day. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of loom music. I do not have footage for this particular series of doing the hem stitching at the beginning and end of each scarf, so that they won't unravel all of my hard work. And once they're all woven, then I get to cut them off the loom, separate them from each other, wash them, lay them out nice and flat to dry, and twist the fringe, take pictures hopefully, and then sell them. Happy weaving, and I'll see you next time. Remember, you gotta be warped to weave.